But yeah, yesterday we were drawing in rectangles under this function and finding the area of the rectangles and adding all those up to kind of at least approximate what the area under this curve and above the x-axis is. Being a day wiser, I redrew this thing. I kind of made it a little wider at the bottom. It just seems like it's easy to work with that way. I even put in the halves, because each of the rectangles yesterday we found was a half a unit wide, right? So these halves kind of come into play. I figured I'd go ahead and label those too, knowing now what I know now. Which is sad, because I've done this particular example since, 2007. You'd think I'd have learned by now, but, you know. This is the year I got it. So what we did yesterday, the approximation that we found was a little bit too big, because our rectangles were actually hanging outside of the region. So we were picking up some area from outside the region in addition to all the area under the region. So we were a little too big yesterday. Today what we're going to do is we're going to draw in 4 new rectangles. But we're going to draw them in starting from the right and going to the left. Should probably chop this region off with 0 and 2. That was our region that was given in the problem, our interval that was given in the problem. So another approximation. We're going to draw 4 right-hand rectangles, meaning starting on the right side of the region and working to the left. So each rectangle is still going to be half a unit wide, because you're still covering the same distance with the same number of rectangles. So my first rectangle, I'm going to start right here and draw it a half a unit to the left, come down to the x-axis. My next rectangle is going to pick up at that x value. It's going to have a height of whatever the function is. Oops, not doing so well. Whatever the function is at 1.5. I'm going to come over to the left, half a unit. My next rectangle is going to pick up what x is 1. It's going to have a height of whatever the function had there. It's going to come a half a unit to the left and down to the x-axis. Same thing, last rectangle is going to have a height right up here on the function. It's going to come half a unit left, and then the x-axis or the y-axis takes me back home. So the x values that represent heights for the rectangles, instead of being yesterday it was 0, a half, and 1, and 1.5. Those were the 4 x values that we plugged in to get the 4 rectangle heights. Today, are we going to use this 0? No. Your f of 0 is too high. It's higher than the first rectangle. Your first rectangle on this side has a height of f of 1.5. So 1/2 and 1 and 1.5 and 2. They're going to be the 4 x values that are relevant when you're starting on the right side. So one endpoint is always going to be left out. Sorry. It's okay. Talk back. Usually it talks back kind of sassy, when it does talk back at all. So anyway, let's figure out the area then. It's going to be about, I'm going to put a 1/2 out front, because that's the width of every one of these rectangles. And then I'm going to have to add up the 4 heights. I called this y equals 6 minus x squared, didn't I? Not f of x.
It was F.
It was f of x? Thanks.
No,
It was y?
No.
good job, Norman.
It was F of X.
Well, like originally it said Y, but then.
Did I use f of yesterday? Yeah, I should have used y of yesterday when we did this, I did f of 0 and f of a half. Really, technically, it should have been y of 0 and a half. Sorry about that. I would have said sorry about the confusion, except I don't think anyone got confused until just now when I tried to clear up the confusion. It wasn't there in the first place.
I feel like you're confusing me.
What? Exactly. All right, so we're going to plug, the first x value that we're going to plug in is a half. And we're going to plug that into the y function, because that's what I called it. We're going to plug in 1. We're going to plug in 3/2, also known as 1 1/2. And we're going to plug in 2. We do for this one, because we're starting on the right side, so we're actually, this would be our first right-hand rectangle.
But we don't plug in 0.
Correct. And now 0 is
Why
0.
is there check marks by everything except for 2?
This was yesterday's, before we used yesterday, and the ones I circled are the ones we're using right now. Oh, I gotta let